Okay, in this video I want to show you on how you can create satin stitches. There seems to be always a lot of confusion on how do we create the satin stitches. And often people use a traced bitmap and want to convert a fill into satin stitches. So we first have to get to know on what a satin stitch is and how the basic satin stitch is created. So I got a few pieces of a few objects here on the screen where we will be going to in a little while, but we first have to get the basic understanding on a satin stitch. So a satin stitch is being created with two lines, and have to make sure that there is no fill on the object and that it has a stroke. Oh, I'm still pressing and I'm gonna make it a little bit wider so it is better visible. So, and now I'm gonna go and make a second line, and you want to make sure that your lines all go in the same direction. Now I can go and select both of these lines and then go path, combine, and now this is sufficient depending on what you're doing, but now we can apply params for a satin. But you will get here the running stitch along the path. Then all we need to do is satin column and apply the satin column, and there you can see we just like that we have a satin column. So that is the most basic satin stitch there is. So all it needs is two rails going the same direction. But now we want to make it more complex, and we will see that ink stitch if we converting a satin. So how can we create these objects also? That is, we can go and create a line, set our line width, and I'm gonna go here a little bit wider. This is more for visibility, not necessarily that it is a right width and whatnot. So now I just drew a single line, and I did go and set my line width here. So you can right click on this number on the bottom if you have specific width that you want to work with, or you can go and to your fill and stroke and to the stroke style, and you can enter your width over here. Then what you can do is we go extension, ink stitch, tool satin, convert line to satin. And now we will see that this line is different than what I created here. The reason for that is we are getting these cross pieces going across the two rails, and those are being called the rungs, and they control the satin, the stitch angle. So I will go and I'll increase the line width here for a moment, so for visibility, and I'm gonna go and duplicate it and I'm gonna move this one over, and now I will go to the node select, and I will go and angle this one, so that way we can see the difference between the two. And because of the, so then we go extension, ink stitch, and we can go here right to the simulator for a moment, and there you will see these, on this one the stitch angles are horizontally, but here you can see that the stitch angle is all in an angle, and that is only because of the rung. Also, what can be done? I can eliminate that rung. Now I will go and in the node select, I will go and create a node over there, and I will create a node here, and now the nodes should control the stitch angle. As you can see, we still are getting here an angled stitch, and that is because of the position of the nodes. So if I go now and I'm dragging this node straight across from the other node, and if I want to have them perfectly aligned, then I can go here to the align and distribute and perfectly have them horizontally from each other. And now we go extension, ink stitch, and we go back to the simulator again. Now we should see that the stitches are, as you can see, now the stitches are all vertically or horizontally perfectly aligned again. So if we do not have the rungs, then the nodes are controlling the stitch angle. And if we want that the stitch angle in a certain area starts changing, we can create more nodes, and now we will see that the stitch angle should start changing in the top area. The visualize simulator again. And here you can see where the nodes are angled from each other. That is where we also see that the stitches are angled. So, and some people they do not like the rungs on their rails, so then it becomes a lot of work in order to align your nodes properly, and you would be deleting nodes, you would be adding nodes. In my opinion, it works way better and adding rungs. So now that we have this object, so I'm selecting this one by itself now for a moment. Once we have the two rails, we can easily add rungs to the rail. And we want to have the two rails selected, then hold down the shift key, and I always use the pencil tool. And now you can see that the nodes at the end are selected, and now I can single click on one side and single click on the opposite side, and I can create my rungs in order to control the stitch angle. If you do not hold down the shift key, so if I go here on this one, now it looks like that I created the rungs, but they are separate objects. So what has to happen is we have to select all of them. So we can do that by holding down the shift key and then select the rails, and then we go path combine, or the shortcut key Control K. So we go combine, and now it is as one object again. And now we can control the stitch angles again for the satin by moving these rungs. So that is the basic setup for a satin. Also, your starting point and your end point always become important. So where you start drawing, that is where the satin should start. But there are options available that we can break this satin into pieces that we wanted to start and end in a certain place. Also, be aware, you can see, I just put my magnifier on here for a moment. I can see my direction arrows on the lines, and the color of that line you can change in the preference window. If you do not see these direction lines, then here on the top there is a red lined icon that will show or remove that direction line. But also it can be a setting in your preference window. So if you double click on the node tool, that will bring you to the preference window for the node tool, and here you can see the path outline. You can change the color, and you want to have the show path direction on outline, you want to have that one check marked. And another important part where you want to be aware of, because there in Inkscape we can set a lot of preferences to our own liking, and here is also an option: deleting nodes preserves the shape. I do not have that one check marked because I do not like using it, but if I need it, I can just like that and change it. But so if you are gonna be deleting nodes and working with your rails and nodes as the direction of your stitches, then you would want to have this one check marked. So now that we have this satin, I'm gonna go and delete, select these two for a moment, and I'm gonna go and delete those. So now we have created this satin, but I want this satin to start at a certain point and end at a certain point. So then what we can do is we go to extension, ink stitch commands, attach command to the selected object, and then we can go to the outer route start position and the outer route end position. We check mark those two and we go and apply. Then we can close this window. Now you can see here is a start icon, and here on the bottom there is an end icon. I can drag these icons to whichever position I want, and this can become important for aligning some satins, and this is also nice for if you have a tapered satin, because with a tapered satin you would not want that your satin stitching is gonna start right in a corner. So then what we do is, once these commands have been applied, we will go and select the satin column, and then we go extension, ink stitch, tool satin, outer route satin column. And I do have nothing selected here or check marked, and then we go and apply. Oh, that should, let's retry that one. Ink stitch tool satin, outer route satin column, and apply. Okay, I know exactly what now the problem is. We first have to go, since I added those rungs to it, ink stitch does not know that it is supposed to be a satin column. As you can see, there is the running stitch along the path. So first what needs to be done is the custom satin column needs to be applied. So we first go and apply and quit. So if you're getting errors, that can be a reason. So now I should be able to go and ink stitch, tool satin, outer route satin column, and go and apply. And now we can see I can close this window, and I will select everything here for a moment and increase the line width for a moment. Now what do we see? We see a line over here, and we see a line here. So this is if we're zooming in, this is a dotted line, and that means that is a running stitch, and that is the same over here. That is a running stitch or a travel stitch, depends where it is being used, kind of. So, and different people call it different things. So it's either a travel stitch or just a straight running stitch. So now we go and take this one, and we go to ink stitch simulator, and now we can see, oh, there is a jump. That is in a way what should not really happen, but I know the reason why. That is because the satin column on the one side finishes up on one side, and it does not make the proper connection. So that is a little bit of flaw in the software, I guess. But then what can be done is extension, ink stitch, tool stroke, jump stitch to stroke. And then we go and apply. And also I have here connect in the same group, because when we apply an outer route, then ink stitch will put all the objects into one group. So, and now we can see ink stitch has created another running stitch right here. And if you run it now into the simulator, make sure I have everything selected, extension, ink stitch, visualize simulator. And as you can see here on the bottom, we do not see any of the jumps anymore, because we have created that connection from where the one rail started and where the other rail ended. That is also a part where you may have to keep an eye on in order to avoid certain trouble, or in order to make good connections. So I'm gonna create here another one for a moment, and extension, ink stitch, tool satin, convert line to satin. So now it is converted to a satin. Let me see here. I should make it a little bit shorter. And extension, ink stitch. Now I want to go to the params, because I want to show you a few odds and ends for some of the settings. So the zigzag spacing, I'm gonna go and widen that for a moment. So that is for visibility of what is happening. And if you're watching, the crosshair is over here on the bottom side, and it started stitching, as you can see, in the top corner there. But if we have more connecting satins to the satin, we may want that this satin finishes on the opposite side. So I have to change that setting for a moment, and we can go here, the reverse the rails. So if we reverse both rails, now what you will see is it will start stitching from the right to the left, and start on the top, and start on the and finish on the bottom here. So if you go the automatic, then we're starting here on the top and we end on the bottom. But if we want to have this on the top, then we have to go here and select the swap rails. So then it will start on the bottom here, and it will end on the top. So that are a few little things where you have to be playing with also for your proper pathing and to get your best stitch out and with as little jumps as possible. So that are first the basic things of the satin. I'm gonna delete these, Now, how do we go about and digitizing text? Well, there are multiple ways that we can create our objects. If we have text what is all consistent of line width, we have to be first making a planning on where do we start and where do we end. Excuse me. So I'll take here, for instance, the E. Where would we want to start? Well, maybe we start on the bottom, and then we do this one, this bar, and then the top bar. So that is, we can go zoom in pretty close so that you have a good visibility. You can go and we can create lines, and we can set our line width, and let's say I'm gonna go here to 4 mil, and then I'm gonna go draw this one, and I'll draw this one, then I want to, and this one you want to keep it just slightly shorter because of the push and pull effect. So now that I have all my objects in the way for this ladder, I can go and select all four, and we go extension, ink stitch, tool satin, convert line to satin. So now they are all satin objects. Then what I do is ink stitch params. I will first go and set my params, because that is also important for where the connections are gonna be made. Why is it not? Why is it not showing? Something was not. I should have extension, ink stitch, params. We'll try it again. There we go. You will see that my screen is a little bit different than yours, because I am working with a development version, and in the development version there can be certain advantages. For in the new version there is a start at nearest point and end at nearest point. There are certain aspects of it I still like to have the manual control in some aspects, so I'm deselecting those objects, so then it is exactly creating it the way I built it. Then I'm setting my zigzag spacing, but there I want to make sure about that I'm setting my underlay, and there are, depends on the line width, on what you want to apply for the undersewing, and that is mostly according to the width of the satin. So I'm applying, for this instance, I'm applying all of the underlay, and I will go and apply and quit. And the reason why I'm making the params first, that is because where it is gonna be the creating the connections in my next step. So then what I always do is I will select all of my objects as what I have within one ladder, and I will go and object and group. Then I will go and extension, ink stitch, tool stroke, jump to stroke, and then connect in the same group. So you can have you can select all your letters at the same time, but then connect in the same group, and then we go and apply, and then we will see it has created all the jumps. Now all we need to do is make an adjustment on our connecting stitches, and all we need to do is grab the line, create a few nodes, and have that hidden underneath our satin. And we do the same with this one. Just add a node, and there is one that should be fine. Probably it would be better if I didn't double check that. I would not really want that jump stitch over here. I would have preferred to have it here from the bottom and then go to the top. That way it would be nicer hidden. But for this demo it'd be fine. So in order to change that, all you would have to do is select here. We can do that for a moment. Extension, ink stitch, the params. So all we need to do here is swap the rails. Swap the rails, and then it should end up here on the bottom. Now you can see there it is on the bottom, and we go and apply, and now we have to make an adjustment and move this node over to where that satin ended up, because otherwise you will end up getting a couple of jump stitches there. So that is that as the ladder. So now I'm gonna go to this one, because this is fairly easy. We can just go and create straight lines, and we can go and set a line width. But now we're coming into fancier stuff, and we having curved lines, and we using an image as a background. Well, how can we create this one as a satin? Well, I'm not gonna go through everything, but I'm gonna show a few little tricks what can be done. So what I do is, because I want this top section as one satin, and then I would create a satin here, but also we want to connect over to here. So there is a bunch of planning what needs to go into this on start points and end points. And how can I create that satin? Really simple. Well, I can go with a Bezier tool and start making my points and go around and enter, and I'll give it a different stroke color here for a moment. And now I can go and do the node select, and I can go and drag my lines and line them up. So that is a way of doing it, but I'll show you another way what can be done also. And delete. I don't feel like drawing out everything, so I like to use some of the tools what Inkscape has available for us. What I do is I am going to make here a little line for a moment, and then I want to make sure I'm deselecting everything. Then I go to my paint bucket, and in my preferences I have it set to my last setting. So I have here the paint bucket selected. Then here in the top I can see on what attributes are applied to my paint bucket, and that is a stroke, and that is what I want exactly. Here I have a threshold. This can be important for depending on the quality of your image in the background. And here I have a setting, grow and shrink by that number sometimes is advantageous also. And then all I need to do is click here on the object, and you don't really see it right now, but I'll increase the width of the object, and this one I don't need anymore, so I can delete that one. And there you can see I have a line going all the way around. Then I go to my node select my line object, and here I will delete the end segment, and I'll make a minor adjustment there, drag the one over, remove the one node, and I'll delete that segment. Now I have both rails made up, but because it was a closed shape, the one rail will be going one direction and the other rail will be going the opposite direction. So I will select a line segment, and I will go path reverse. Now in principle this is sufficient I'll show you. Extension, ink stitch, paramps. So we will get the running stitch along the path. We go to the satin column, and there we have a satin column. But as you can see, the stitch direction is not really nice. So that is something what needs to be adjusted. But you can go and apply your zigzag spacing already, and you can create your underlay on it already, and then hit your apply and quit. But now, in order for a design like this to line up all the nodes is a lot of work in order to get the right stitch direction. So then what we will do is we will go and hit the shift key, hit the pen tool, and we will go and make our rungs to get the proper stitch angles. And now we will go and run it through the simulator again. And there you can see a big difference in how the stitches are lining up, and that is only by adding those rungs. If there are in certain areas you need to make a slight improvement, you can manipulate the nodes, select the node select tool, and you can drag your rungs in order to get the right angles. So now here too, we would want to go and set a start and stop point on this one. So we apply the extension, ink stitch commands, attach command, auto route end and start, and we go and apply. And now I have to have the select tool, bring my stop point. The start point doesn't matter too much. I don't like to have it starting in a point. I like to have it starting somewhere in a wider area. I could go and have the start point over here. And then we go select the satin column, extension, ink stitch, tool satin, auto route satin column, and we go and apply. And there you can see again, there we have the running stitches, and here we have the running stitch. This way I like it to start a pointed area with a running stitch, because that way you can hide the tie-ins nicely with the satin column. And if you start right in a point, you get a lot of small stitches in a small area, what is not always recommended either. So, and then the same thing can be done with the next part. So just draw a line here and close this up for a moment. And now we can go back to the paint bucket and one single click, and we have our outline. We can go select this little line and delete it. Now we go to node select and we zoom in a little bit on the end here and delete the node, delete the segment, and then we may have to drag a few of the points a little bit over in order to get the right connection there. And then we go to the opposite end, delete the segment. Oh, I have to make sure. There, the segment selected, and there we have our satin column. Then we go we have to go path, reverse one rail, then we go shift, pen tool, and we go and add a few rungs, and then we go extension, ink stitch, params, and we get a running stitch along the path, and we go custom satin column, and there you can see we have our custom satin column, and just like that, without really having to draw anything. And we have a nice contour. Sometimes it needs a little bit adjusting, that depending on how your quality of object is. So, and this way you just have to continue with making the next one. So like this one also, you would want to apply the start and the stop command, because we would want to start, or we want to start here, but we want to stop over here, so that we can, the satin can stitch down up to this point, then with a travel stitch come all the way around and then start with a satin over here and come all the way around back to here, so that we can continue with our next leather. So that's why then you apply the start and the stop commands and the outer out again, and then continue with the next one. And there too again we can do the same thing, adding a line across for a moment and create your small section and remove the nodes. Also, let me see here, sometimes, let me see, where can I do that? Okay, I will create manually a few points here, or create a satin, and so I will path, combine, and extension, ink stitch, params, and we go satin column and apply and quit. So sometimes what we will get in a situation like this, we find that these angles, that the satin is not really meeting up really nice. So what I sometimes do is I will go and create an extra node and move this one over here and move that one there, and the same on this one. I will create that more to a corner and then apply some rungs. So depends on what you want to accomplish and what kind of stitch direction you want, but sometimes we want to go and close that in a little nicer, and that the stitch direction is continuing in a certain direction. So that is how we can go and accomplish that. Also, in order to create rounded corners, there's also people, and how do we go about creating rounded corners? Well, to a certain point that is exactly the same. You add a node, you can go and put these close together, and then you can go and drag out here the line segment. There is also some people, they show it a different way. What can be done also is extension. You want to be cautious for rounding off some of your ends. Let me see here, because some of your ends you want to have a little bit of width, because otherwise you may end up with really short stitches. So here I converted the line to a satin. So in the params it has the sewing attribute of a satin stitch already. As you can see, the custom satin column. And so you change the settings and then apply and quit. So another option for creating a curved end, if that is where you would want your curved end to end, for this demo I'm gonna go and drag here a guideline for a moment. I will go and select these two nodes for a moment, and I'm gonna go and shorten them up depending on what kind of curve I want. You can add extra nodes, like I said, and then bring the end nodes to the end and curve the edge. But what also can be done is we can add a line segment, a temporary segment, drag the line over, and we can use our handles to curve it to our liking. Then what we do is we create a extra node right on the end and then split the node. This has not changed anything, and the params have been applied already. So everything still should be working properly the way it should be. And then we go back to the params. And there you can see we have a curved corner. So that to a certain point. Okay, one more thing where I'm gonna go quickly to, because otherwise it's getting pretty long video, or it is already. So I have here an image, and a lot of people, they are using the path trace bitmap. So what do we get with a trace bitmap? If we are using the brightness cutoff, we are getting a fill. So if we go and apply, that is, I'll delete that one. So I did apply the trace bitmap, and now I have this object, and to show you that I'll change, I gave it a stroke. I don't want a stroke. I want a fill color. So this is the vector object. How do we convert this into satin? Well, you can go and break everything apart and individually draw everything out, but that is really time consuming also. What I like to use for this is extension, ink stitch, tool stroke, fill to stroke. You may have to play a little bit with these numbers in order to get the best result, but I will go and hit the apply button here, and then it takes a little bit of time for Inkstitch to figure out on how to create it. Then I will go and close this window, and now I will drag that one over, and I should go and change the color to make it better visible. And now we can see, like, this was the trace bitmap result, and you can see here in the bottom corner that was a fill. Then I went through the process with Inkstitch. Now this one, you can see in the bottom corner here, that is all a stroke. So then I can go, and what I like to do then is go extension, Inkstitch, tool stroke, red work. And then I will go and apply and then we'll go and close. Oh yeah, let's, okay, I had to change the stroke width for a moment. So now Inkstitch has created a red work, and that is all a running stitch, and everything shows out continuous. I can go and show that in the params here for a moment. As you can see here on the bottom, there are no jumps in there whatsoever, but everything is a running stitch. But now I want to convert this to a satin stitch. So how can I do that quickly? I can go and extension Inkstitch. Let me see here. Edit. Select embroidery elements. And let me see here. Stroke, running stitch, top stitching, red work. And I will go do the live preview. And then it is checking all the objects. So now I have my top stitching for the red work selected, and I will go here and click the apply. And then close this window. Then I will set my stroke width to the 1.4 or the 1.5. Extension, Inkstitch, tool satin, convert line to satin. So now everything has been, the top stitching has been converted to a satin. And now I can select everything and run it through the params, or I can go to the simulator here for a moment. Still the params would have to be changed. But here you can see now instantly, in a matter of a few clicks, I have the whole design is converted into a satin. And you can see here on the bottom there are no jumps. I'm turning on here the jumps and the trims, and we do not see anything here on the bottom. So this whole object will show out continuous. Also, you can see here on the design info, you can see 0 color changes, 0 jumps, 0 trims, and 0 stops. So it can be as quick as anything. It sometimes may not give the most wanted outcome, because you do not 100% control which one goes underneath and which one goes over top. But this is a quick way of getting you started on converting things to a satin. So I'm gonna leave it at this for now. It's been a long video, and there is lots to think about, many ways of doing things. So have fun, and if you have questions, put them in the group. You don't have to fight a battle. We are there to help as much as we can. Okay, thanks for watching.